Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Friday. I hope you're all doing good. It's cold, it's windy, and it's snowy here, which I think some of you can relate to that, considering about half the country right now is covered in snow and ice, and maybe even worse in some instances. So I hope you're all keeping warm. I've got the shop up to about 65 degrees right now, which is good considering, and it's sure good to be here with all of you. And by the way, shout out to all my replay watchers, because I know a lot of you watch over the weekend or throughout the next week. Make sure you guys leave comments, and we'll all hang out together tonight. So we're going to talk about my recent trip to Lansing. I was just there 2 days ago. I'm optimistic, and I have some plans and some ideas for the upcoming session. I want to share all of that with you all, and some things that need to get fixed as soon as possible. Also, it appears the ATF is banning pistol braces yet again, but not through their rule that's already been vacated and enjoined by several different federal judges and circuit courts and all of that, but something probably more top secret than that, and it's actually worse than the pistol brace rule that was deemed unconstitutional and violated the Administrative Procedures Act. I did a video about that if you want to see the whole letter from the GOA, which I read, and I also have that letter posted over on my locals community. But before we get into all of that, I want to thank all of you for the many ways you help support the channel. Thank you to those who leave super chats, which is a way of you sponsoring this particular live stream and podcast. Also for my channel members, which there's extra content for you, as well as unique emojis. Same thing for my Patreon supporters, extra bonus videos and stuff. And my locals community, which is a different site, censorship free. We do an extra bonus weekly live stream there where we can actually touch guns, and I make posts throughout the whole week with really good deals on stuff that probably should be interesting all of you. So make sure you check that out, as well as the other censorship free platforms that are down in the description, like local sister site that rhymes with fumble. We'll just say it like that because some people say YouTube doesn't quite like that site too much, but it's in the description, as well as X and Myriad Social. Myriad Social is not only censorship free, but it's on the blockchain, so uncensorable. So thank you for all the ways you guys support, and I do appreciate it. So lots to talk about actually tonight, and I know what I'm going to be doing for the next 24 hours because, well, I'm a landscaper. I cut lawns and do many other landscaping things in the summer, and I wish it was summer right now because I can't stand all that white stuff that's accumulating on the ground, but I'm going to be out plowing and salting and all of that, and we'll see how much comes down when it's done, but we'll all hang out in the meantime, and hopefully you guys get a good night's sleep tonight. Maybe I will, but probably not. I'll probably be up all night working. So I'm going to go over some of the Lansing, Michigan stuff first because it's been crazy. It's been a very tumultuous 2 years. And it still kind of is because you don't get out of the woods this quickly, see. The Michigan House Republicans did overtake the House. So we do have a Republican, not a super majority, but a pretty firm, solid majority in the Michigan House. And I am optimistic. Now, look, optimistic is one thing, and I think we can be both optimistic and cautious at the same time. Well, why would I be cautious? Of course I'm cautious. We do have Republicans sometimes that vote for gun control, but since Democrats vote for gun control and everything else you can possibly think of to destroy the state of Michigan, and let's just say this whole country, obviously, right? We need to keep an eye on everybody, but we have a better chance with the Republicans in the majority than we do the Democrats for sure. Now, in case you haven't heard, the Michigan Senate serves a 4-year term. They weren't up for re-election a couple months back, so the Democrats do control the Michigan Senate still. Of course, the governor of Michigan, what a disgrace. Do you guys remember that commercial that she did during the election? The governor would like to offer you communion. Boy, that was sick. These people are real sick. They're twisted and they're evil. And they're definitely attacking the Second Amendment at every single step as hard as they possibly can. So every 2 years, they usher in a new legislative session with the Michigan House of Representatives serving 2-year terms. No more do they get in office and they're already seeking re-election again. Although Michigan does have rather strict term limits, so they don't serve the rest of their life. So that means there's lots of new people coming and, of course, old people going. So on their first legislative day, which this year was January 8th, they have what's called their opening day session. And it is a real session. It's where they officially elect the House Speaker, which is Speaker Matt Hall, as well as the Speaker Pro Tem. Now, if you're not good with Latin, that basically means the temporary speaker, the one that typically during session holds the gavel. A lot of you remember who we used to call Lori Pohotsky. Well, we used to call her, I always called her that. I've actually been way too nice to her, probably. A lot of people said, 2AE to you, you're a bit too mean. But then a lot of people said I'm actually too nice. And if you want my opinion, I was actually probably way too nice. But we like to keep this channel family friendly. She used to be that lady, that whatever she is. Who knows what these people identify as? I mean, think about it. Think about all these Democrats and just people on the other side generally. They don't even know their own name, don't know how to pronounce it. Who am I? What am I? You guys remember the Supreme Court justice, right? They asked her during her confirmation, what's a woman? She said, I don't know. Nobody could possibly know. I'm not a biologist. My specialty is I want to be sitting on the highest court of the land. Like literally. But I don't have a degree in anatomy and physiology. Nobody could possibly know. So Lori Pohotsky, maybe she's a she, maybe she's not, is no longer the Speaker Pro Tem. The new Speaker Pro Tem is Rochelle Smith, who was also officially elected into that position on opening day. They also passed what's called the House Rules for the upcoming session, which I think they should just follow the Constitution. This is where I'm going to call a spade, and I'm not a partisan person because although I can't find anyone on the Democrat side that I ever agree with on anything anymore, there's like literally not one reasonable Democrat I can find on the state or federal level whatsoever. And Republicans, there are some good ones out there. So don't mistake what I'm saying, though. I'm not a Republican either. And I can't stand that we have this binary choice where you just have to choose between blue and you have to choose between red. And I don't really even consider myself a conservative because, and I've talked about this before, kind of a tough topic in the 2A world because you're supposed to be a Republican and a conservative. And look, a lot of my good friends are Republicans and conservatives and libertarians. And I don't know, I guess I don't really have any Democrat friends because they've all gone completely crazy, it seems. But I'm not even a conservative because conserve what? Conserve the status quo? Conserve the slow, sometimes drastic, sometimes quick. It waxes and wanes. Destruction of the Second Amendment over the last 100 years. Conserve what? The 1934 National Firearms Act? The 1968 Gun Control Act? The Ronald Reagan, and he's the darling of the Republican Party and so-called conservatism. Yeah, him, the 1986 Firearms Owners Protection Act. Firearms Owners Protection Act that he signed with the Hughes Amendment, virtually banning any new machine guns that weren't registered before May of 1986. Thus, you can see the cheapest machine guns, 30 grand, sometimes even more, right? So, yeah, I'm basically just like the Constitution. I still believe the Constitution is the law of the land, the United States Constitution for these many United States, and the Michigan Constitution being the supreme law of Michigan. And I wish they just follow that, but instead they have rules of the House and they have rules of the Senate. And in many cases, they follow their own rules that are in complete defiance and completely affront to the Michigan Constitution. So with that said, the rules are going to be a little less worse under Republican leadership and under Speaker Matt Hall. And the Michigan House Republicans are setting up tons of new committees for government accountability, looking into past things that have happened over the years. Think of 2020 and the plague. I guess we'll call it the whatever. People call that so many things too. It's hard to even keep track of. Some people even call it the Kung flu, right? They're even going to go back and start looking at a lot of how that was handled. Many, many other things with subpoena power, where they can subpoena in the governor, the Secretary of State, there's a real beauty, and also another real beauty, the Attorney General. Now, when we say real beauty with these type, we mean that in a different kind of way, but you know what I mean. Some people say I'm being too nice again. I know. You guys tell me what you call all these people. The governor of Michigan, The Secretary of State and the Attorney General, these are not good people. These people are completely evil. And in my opinion, they want to completely destroy the state of Michigan. They want to destroy America. And I think it's become quite obvious they hate the Constitution of the state of Michigan and of the United States. But they're going to have subpoena power now, or hopefully they'll have them in hearings that will be available to the public. And I hope that there's tough accountability and tough questions that are going to be asked. So there's a little bit to look forward to, right? So opening day, I was the distinguished guest for actually the second time in a row of my favorite state representative, Jamie Thompson. I think she's actually a lot of people's state representative all throughout the state of Michigan and throughout the United States, actually. She's a good one, and my viewers are pretty smart and know that. So, yeah, man, I was there, went with the lovely Jane Locke. She actually drove me to Lansing. I told her, I said, I want you to go to Lansing with me. Let's go. Let's hang out. And she wanted to. And I'm like, well, we can take my truck there, but we'll have to park on the street. And since it's opening day, probably like walk a mile or 2 or 3. I said, or you can drive and like I'll chip in on gas and whatnot. She's like, I'll drive. So Jane was my chauffeur and security, both. See, when Jane's with you, you get a number of things. Since she drove, because look, my truck, both of my trucks actually, will not fit in a parking structure. And if you can fit in the parking structure, you probably want to be able to park there, even though it's super expensive. If not, you could be hoofing it for a long time. I was going to take the old stake truck. It's a 2000. It's a Ford. It's got the big 7.3 Power Stroke. It'll pull anything and pull a gas station, but it can't really pass a gas station because it gets about 10 miles to the gallon. But I love it. I can't stand modern vehicles I can't work on, right? I know some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm like, well, Jane, I'd like to go and hang out, but would you like to walk for a mile or 2 or 3 or 4? And she said no, so she drove. So I went there with Jane and was also there with Jamie's other 2 house floor guests. Now, I was Jamie's house floor guest 2 years ago, which was awesome. I literally got to sit on the floor of the Michigan House of Representatives, watch them take their oath. And yeah, I can tell you guys, I've sat on the floor of the Michigan House of Representatives, which will probably be the last time I ever do that because I've already been her guest once for that. And she was nice enough, though, to give me a balcony seat so I could watch from the area up in the balcony, right? The gallery, as it's called, which is cool. That's awesome. I actually ended up hanging out with my Senator, Joe Bellino, during most of that because the balcony was too packed and I wanted to go over and see what the Senate was doing, but I was there for it, and it was totally awesome. But yeah, she had her son Jackson, which is a cool dude. Awesome. It was nice to see him. He was one of her house floor guests, as well as my county commissioner in Monroe County, Michigan, Jay Heinzerling. So like I told you guys, you got to focus on local. Jay's a good dude. I actually talked to my county commissioner about the Second Amendment and other issues, but definitely about the Second Amendment. He's a huge 2A advocate. So we're walking around, and I have to say, we were probably, now I'm going to say probably because I'm trying to be really nice tonight, but we were probably the best looking group in Lansing. Me, Jane, Jackson, Jay, Jamie. Now, here's the other thing, too. Nobody messed with me when I was there, and they probably wouldn't do that because I don't know if you guys have seen Jamie's son, Jackson. He's actually a really nice guy. You probably wouldn't want to mess with him too much, though. You know what I mean? Like, he's pretty tough. So we were good to go. Same thing with Jay. Wouldn't mess with him either. And I think you guys already know our friend Jane Locke, who's right now in the chat, probably wouldn't want to mess with her either. She's an Air Force veteran from way back in the day. And you know what they say about veterans? Sometimes they say they don't make them quite like they used to, right, Jane? She was talking about serving up, and she was stationed up in, what was it, North Dakota? She said, you think it's cold here? It's pretty cold up there. So we had a good time hanging out. And one more thing I would note, and then we're going to get on to some of the Second Amendment stuff that I want to talk about. The food this year. So there's food. There's a luncheon, it's called. And the luncheon's good to go to because, well, first of all, you're kind of hungry at that point, and why not get some food? And second of all, there's going to be senators there. There's going to be representatives there, many other good people there that you just want to talk to and advocate for the Second Amendment. And since that was the exact reason I went there, I was looking forward to the luncheon so I could just start talking to representatives, senators, and I did both. But I noticed since Speaker Hall took over, I will say this about the Republicans. They do put on a little better menu. Like there was actually like meat and potatoes. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, what's this? I've never heard of that. Like, dude, these people are so weird on the left. They don't even eat like normal food anymore. But there was just like, there was like chicken and there was like potatoes and you know what I'm saying? Just like regular food that you knew what it was when you saw it. So I will say the food was a little better than it was 2 years ago. So that's it. I went there, I ate, and then I went home and I did nothing at all. So do you guys believe me? No. So we got a huge mess over the last 2 years in Michigan regarding the Second Amendment with 3 major gun control packages passing and going into effect last year. This is going to concern the universal background checks licensing registration scheme, which is going to include long guns with exceptions for CPL holders and certain people with badges and blah, blah, blah. But registration, background checks, get a shotgun from your neighbor down the road, don't have a CPL, you have to go get a pistol purchase permit. Completely and utterly unconstitutional. Registration has always, and that's its only purpose actually, has always led to confiscation. And let's just say how it is. These people want to do this incrementalism where it's a little bit here, a little bit there. Now, I look at it as a lot here and a lot there. I hate to be hyperbolic and I hate to always be the bearer of bad news, like I promise, but to me, there is no such thing as a small little innocuous gun control bill or law, or when it comes to the federal government, rules, regulations, CFRs. And they have rules actually promulgated now in Michigan too regarding the Second Amendment with MDHHS, with the state police, with the schools. Look, they put gun control in the school bills now. They literally put gun control in with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. And some people kind of sit back. Maybe you guys know people like this, and they're like, well, hold on a minute. Have they put forth the let's ban everything and come to your house and take it right now, Bill? And I'm like, well, no, that bill, well, then whatever. I'm good. Or the other famous thing people will say is, well, what's my loophole? What's my loophole? And I'm like, well, hold on a minute. Loophole? No. A loophole. I reject that whole notion. Here's the law of the land, and it's not a loophole. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's the law of the land for all 50 states, whether people hate the Constitution or they love it or not. So any little thing is a huge thing to me, and that's why I've been reporting on every last thing that's been going on in my home state of Michigan. That's why, as much as most people in the comments think they're a joke and don't even care, it seems like, the ATF. Look, if it's even one person they're going after for a pistol brace right now, or telling them, in this case, that they can't have. No, that's one too many, and that's infinitely too many, because shall not be infringed is such a clear-cut phrase. It's so obvious, a fourth grader could understand it. And these people understand it, but they hate it, and that's why they always act against. It's not that these are dumb people, these are evil people. And there is a difference, trust me, there's a big difference, and they know exactly what they're doing. Though we're going to come take all your guns right now, Bill. I hope it never, ever happens. It's truly my hope. And it's up to us to decide if it ever will. But they're not just going to put out a bill tomorrow or the day after saying every gun is hereby banned, even all of the FUD guns, even all of the muskets, even all of the knives, the butter knives, and even forks in some countries now they're getting rid of. That bill's not going to come tomorrow. But what they are going to do is they're going to try to indoctrinate your children through the MDHHS. They are going to try to create different ends around where it's not the legislature exactly deciding how it'll work. It's they put money in through a school safety bill, a school aid bill. And now they're going to send indoctrination information to all schools in the state of Michigan. Now, that bill is at the governor's desk right now. Now, it says it at least has to contain the set criteria. If you didn't see that video or you're new to the channel, welcome. and go back and watch the video, because I literally read the verbiage of the bills and went through them. And as I always do, I gave my opinions on it and commented on it. But that's at the governor's desk right now as of about 1:27, I believe, p.m. One was at 1:25 p.m., one was 1:27 p.m., and one was 1:30 p.m. on the 8th. Those were officially presented to the governor. 14 days to sign it or veto it. Or if she does nothing, they will not become law. And it does go by the hour. That's why I just mentioned the specific times. But these are literally crazy things that they've put in place. Now, with the Republicans in charge right now of the House, not the Senate, not the governorship. Well, there's a couple ways you could look at it. Okay, and I'll tell you the first way, which is the way I hope you don't look at things. But this is what a lot of people have said. So they've said, well, look, the Republicans only have the House. That ain't going to do anything. They can't repeal any laws right now. Because the Senate's Democrat and the governor certainly won't sign any bills that are going to repeal gun control. So it means nothing. Let's do nothing. Let's just complain a little bit on the internet, put our head in the sand, and to just kind of do nothing and just kind of be a flake. And hey, that's why we find ourselves in the shape we're in. Now, my viewers are smarter than that. And I think you guys are a lot more ambitious than that. That's why I'm talking to you. But that's what a lot of people have been telling me. And I'm like, no. How about we push the ball forward? And if you want to achieve a certain goal, you actually have to do something about it. And we are supposed to have a government that operates at the consent of the governed. Now, if you tell them that it's okay, and trust me, they have many thousands of people that have shown up to the Capitol in the last 2 years. Thousands upon thousands when you add them up. Probably tens of thousands when you add it up. Have gone there and said, we want gun control. We want it now. Ban this, ban that. Red flag laws, which those did pass as well and went into effect last year. So-called safe storage also passed and went into effect last year. And now they promulgated like 3 different rules and like agencies, MDHHS, the schools, all of this. Say they're acting just like the ATF does. You have a draconian, unconstitutional law, and then they promulgate rules based on the law. And it's all a big scam, and it's all completely repugnant to the Constitution, and it's terrible. So there are people that consent that way and say, look, I want to ban. I hate the Second Amendment. I hate this country. I want it all to just go away. And there are people doing that. Now, here's the tough part, though. I know a lot of you know people like this. And look, all of you are very smart people. I'm just trying to encourage you all to talk to people. You decide how you talk. Some people need a real stern talking to. Some people need a little bit more than stern. Other people you kind of got to play it cool with. And you all be the judge of your friends, your family, people you go to church with, work with, that you just hang out with around town, right? Acquaintances. But there's a lot of people that are actually consenting too by simply doing nothing. They say nothing. La, 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 la. The Lions are the best team. Did they win? Did they not win? Which it's great. Like, everyone should be able to chew gum and walk at the same time, though. I think you know my point. You can, like, root on the Lions and watch the football game, but then, like, also contact your state representative, contact your state senator. Like, literally, there's something to be contacting these people about, in some cases, every day, if not at least once a week, maybe once a month if they can't handle that, once a year, once in their whole life. You know what I mean, right? Like, once in their whole life isn't enough, but it would actually be an improvement on about 99% of all the people that live in this state. So there's this vocal minority that wants to completely and utterly destroy the Second Amendment, right? Then there's the very vocal extreme minority, meaning next to almost nobody statistically. Like, we're all here tonight and we're somebody's and we all matter, but there's like so few of us, though, that are always like, shall not be infringed. Let's go get them. This is BS. We're not going to deal with this anymore. There's like 100 times less of us than there is people that are rampant about gun control. Okay, so that leaves about 90% of the populace left. And some of them just don't even care. Some of them are actually, like, they would say very pro-Second Amendment. And I'm sure in their own heart and mind they are. But 90% of the people just simply do nothing. And they do nothing. And they do nothing. then they complain because they're like, how did we find ourselves in the shape we're in? Well, that's because of an age-old thing that's actually much older than the state of Michigan. It's much older than the United States, and it's actually older than almost anything. And that is that evil prevails when good men do nothing. And that it's always been, currently is, and always will be a battle of good versus evil. See, we talk about the Second Amendment, and that's the focus of this channel. And I love the whole Bill of Rights, literally all of it, and the Constitution. That's why I don't want to call myself a conservative, because I don't want to conserve this BS that we've been all just going along to get along with for 100 years. No, I want to go back to how this country's supposed to be again, right? Let me know if there's anybody that agrees with me on that, because that's really what it's all about, and that's what I'm striving for. But look, I like the Second Amendment just a little bit more, and it's hard to choose, and it truly is, but I like it just a little bit more than all the rest, because it was put there for not if, but for when. They come for all of the rest of our amendments that don't grant, but safeguard our natural rights. Declaration of Independence. We need to talk about parts of it every single week, because the other side's trying to destroy it every minute of every day. All men are created equal, and they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our rights come from our Creator. Our rights come from God. As the Declaration of Independence says, these are the laws of nature, and of nature's God. And that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers, not rights, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So you can consent by telling them you consent, and I know nobody here's doing that. And you can also just sit back and do nothing, which I know most people here are doing something, and I appreciate you guys, and that's why I'm glad to get to hang out with you. But you need to remind a lot of your friends and family. And that brings me back to going to the opening day session in Michigan here 2 days ago. Now, it's probably going to be less worse. It is. It's probably going to be less worse than when the Democrats had the trifecta, controlling both chambers of the legislature and the governor. But I don't want just a little bit less worse. I want better. And I think there are some ways to push the ball forward and to try to make it closer to where we need to be. Look, it's taken like a couple 100 years to find ourselves in the shape we're in. We can start digging up bones and blaming all the former generations, and they probably actually do deserve a lot of blame, really. But not that we don't deserve any, because we deserve blame too, obviously. But at a certain point, you need to stop. You need to slow the bleeding. Then you need to stop the bleeding. And then you can start treating the wound that hopefully it'll heal, right? And there is a particular order. Now, look, I'm not disillusioned. I don't think that we're going to be able to, in the next 2 years, with just the Michigan House flipping Republican, going to be able to undo all these wrongs. No, of course not. But just since you can't do that, doesn't mean not to do anything. And I do think there's some things that can be done. So first and foremost, when I walked into what's called the Anderson House office building, that is the office building where your Michigan representative works. Now, they work all over the place. They should be working constantly within their district, right? I mean, geez, Jamie Thompson, Michigan Representative Jamie Thompson, she's like one of my best friends. And geez, if you can talk to her for more than 5 minutes without her getting a phone call or email from somebody, that would be lucky. Like, people that do a good job as a representative, they're like super busy people, which means they're literally like all over the place, right? Now, I will tell you this about Jamie. She takes time. Sometimes they're text messages, sometimes they're phone calls, sometimes it's carrier pigeon, smoke signals, SOS, you name it, right? But no, her and I actually communicate almost constantly. And with all of the stuff they have to do, I challenge you guys, go to Lansing one day and just kind of shadow your representative for the day. Watch how many people are pulling them in all directions. Watch how many meetings they have to go to. Watch how often they have to go to caucus, their committees. Watch how many lobbyists are coming into their offices. That lady takes time to talk to me in some cases every single day, like when the pressure's really hot. And if not that, we recap like minimum, like once a week. She literally takes that time to talk to me about the Second Amendment. And of course, I'm doing my job as a good constituent, feeding her all kinds of information. discussing strategy with her. And that's what I'm encouraging all of you guys to do. If you have a good one, you got to get behind them. If you have like the best pro Second Amendment representative, let me give a shout out to all of my friends that live up in the Upe. Okay, Michigan, you know what I mean? It looks a little something like this. I'm trying to do it backwards. It may be backwards to you, but it might not be. I don't know. It's the way the cameras do things. But let's say your Michigan representative is a guy named Greg Markinen. Now, when it comes to the Second Amendment, you really ain't going to find much better than that. Okay, this is the whole western side of the UP up there. Now, there's many good ones throughout the state. I'm just thinking of him right now. And I was thinking of some of my UP friends because there's some good ones. The UP up there, let me tell you guys something about the UP. Well, let me get back to this. Greg Markinen. Dude, he's solid. I don't think you have to worry about him ever voting against the Second Amendment, actually. Now, I did a video just the other day saying people that live on the west side of the state, this would be upper or lower Michigan, right? Some of you guys that aren't from Michigan are like, what are you even talking about? Just look at it. It's called upper and lower peninsulas, right? Because they're both peninsulas. Now, western side of the state, I've been hearing about lots of issues. I'm glad that some of you guys did email me, so thank you for those emails. I've been super busy today, but I will be responding to your emails, and I do appreciate it. But I'm working on something trying to get to the bottom of a few things I've been hearing about. Now, I was on the phone with Michigan Representative Greg Markinen's office for a decent amount of time yesterday, talking to his, they call it their front desk and back desk. They have two different legislative aides in each office. And I was talking to both of those ladies, and man, oh man, talk about pro Second Amendment people in that office. So if he's your rep, that's a good one, okay? You know what I'm saying? So you could just sit back and be like, well, then I'll just do nothing because he's a good pro 2 Second Amendment supporter. So let's just do, no. Look, if your representative is pro Second Amendment, now you guys already know what you do if it's the opposite. Give them hell every day about all of their bad decisions they're making, about their tyranny that they're committing against the state of Michigan and this country, and get together with your friends and neighbors and get them voted the heck out. Say, you're fired. You don't work for us anymore. You're not representing us. You didn't honor your oath to the Constitution. Get out. You're fired right now. That's what you do to the bad ones. I think that doesn't need to be said, but just to make sure, you know what I mean? Just to make sure for everyone, including me that went to public schools, but that's what you do. Now, if you have a good one, though, you need to actually get behind them. You can't take anything for granted because the other side's constantly attacking these people. All right. And I just saw Jane in the comments. She had gone through and emailed all of the representatives about an issue. That's Jane's challenge to everybody in this chat, by the way. And even if you're not in Michigan, every single thing I'm talking about is germane to all 50 states. Trust me. You all have a state legislature. Even in the best states that there are, and dude, there's some awesome states out there. Trust me. Some that are very good on the two-way compared to others. There's still shenanigans going on. I don't care what state you live in. There's always shenanigans. Take the Jane Locke challenge and email every single representative in Michigan on an issue and see what happens. And he responded to her, and she doesn't even live in his district. But back to the UP again. So here's the thing, and I'm not going to pretend to intimately understand it because I don't live there. All right. Like I've been there before, but I don't live there. But I will say this. It's its own thing. I think everyone that lives in the UP is just instantly nodding their head. They're a different breed up there. And when I say that, I say like in a good way. These are like your shoot, shovel, and shut up type of people. These are people that live way out in the middle of nowhere for the most part. Now there's a couple asterisks. There's a couple of very liberal areas. Anywhere there's a big college town, you're going to find liberals no matter where you're at. Trust me, you live in North Dakota, wherever your big college is, there's a bunch of liberals there. This is just the way this is, and it's a disease and it's a contagion. But besides these couple little pockets here and there in the UP, these people literally live out in the middle of nowhere. And that's exactly where they want to be. These are people that are like, just leave me the hell alone. I'll take care of myself. Don't touch my guns. I'll snowmobile everywhere I want to go. And they do too. Like you literally in the UP, totally status quo because winter is about 9 months out of the year, it seems. You know, maybe not quite that much, but essentially winter can be like, sometimes they just have winter and summer. All right. Let's just leave it at that. Some areas of the UP, the snow is measured in the feet and sometimes the tens of feet. You ride a snowmobile just right up to the bar, the grocery store, to church, to whatever. Like they literally just ride snowmobiles like down the road. Like how cool is that, right? They'll just drive their snowmobile right up to the store, grab themselves a loaf of bread or whatever. I don't think they really buy a lot of food because most people I know are constantly out there killing stuff and eating game, right? Eating deer, rabbits. Well, up in the UP, there's a lot bigger stuff than even deer. But you get my point. And the people up there are literally just like, leave me the hell alone. Don't touch my guns. And I'm like, dude, that is actually kind of like the epitome. Like, there's lots of things up there that makes it a tough life. Make no mistake. The fact that it's like super cold. If you're anywhere near like Lake Superior, which a lot of the UP is bordering Lake Superior, it's bigger than some oceans. Like the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Go look it up. It's actually all very interesting part of the country if you've never been or never heard about it. But yeah, man, it's a totally different world. You cross what's called the bridge, simply. People call it the bridge. It's the Mackinac Bridge. And you go up there and it's like, man, it's like the state of Michigan. We're talking there's mountains up there. Here's the crazy part. Shout out to all my southern friends. And some of you guys are actually going to know what I'm talking about. Besides the climate, it's like if you drove from where I'm at in southeastern Michigan and you drove about 1,000 miles south, you would drive through tons of mountains. You'd run into all sorts of good old boys. You'd run into all sorts of people living in hollers and off the beaten path. And those are like totally my kind of people. Like literally. Some of you can probably kind of tell, right? That's the type of guy I am. I hang out with people that I need to sometimes, but at the same time, I'd rather just be out with some good old boys, if you know what I'm saying. But look, you drive down south and you see things, you meet people, and then you drive up north and you drive about 1,000 miles up north. I'm not joking either when I say this. You can drive about 1,000 miles and still be in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan from where I live in the very southeastern. I mean, I'm like 20 miles from Ohio, right? Shout out to all my Ohio viewers too, by the way. That's another excellent state. So you go up through, and it almost reminds you, besides the weather, that's a huge caveat. Besides the weather, it kind of reminds you of being down south again. Because all of a sudden there's mountains. All of a sudden there's a bunch of people that are like cool as heck, by the way, but don't trust the government, have all kinds of guns. They hunt, they fish. Now it's a different accent, but they even have their own unique accent in the Upper Peninsula. I'm being serious. You should go up there sometime. I encourage you to do so. Just save up for a lot of gas money because it's a long drive. But man, the people in the UP, literally, there was this lady named Jen Hill. Has anybody heard of her? Has anyone heard of her? Eugene Worth. There's a Youper. Now, here's the thing. You can pronounce it different ways. You can say just UP, which is a short acronym for Upper Peninsula. And if you wanted to look like a total square, you could be like UPER, Youper. But they laugh at you and say you ain't from around here because it's actually YOOPER. I'm being serious. It's cool. But look, Eugene Worth's in here talking, and I know he's from the UP. You guys used to have a representative up there called Jen Hill. Has anyone heard of her? Now, this woman was like a radical leftist. She was up there like just totally in disarray. Now, this is not a well-kept person, not on the inside or the outside. And it seems like she might be a few dimes short of a dollar, if you know what I mean. This is just in my opinion. I'm actually trying to be very, very nice with the tyranny that she voted for this last term. But I've listened to this person talk. She's not very smart. I'm like, how the heck did she get elected? And this is why I'm spending time giving a shout out to my friends in the UP, because a lot of you guys have been promising me for the last 2 years. You're like, dude, she's out next term. All right, she's out. Ain't going to happen again. And she did get voted out. That's why I said there used to be a state rep called Jen Hill up there. Now there's a new guy, and his name is Carl Bonak, Bohnak. He literally just got sworn in like 2 days ago. I've not met him yet. So I'm eager to talk to him to see where he stands. on the Second Amendment. I know most of our reps. There are some other pockets, south of the bridge, but what we call up north Michigan. There's some pockets like Betsy Kafia. Yeah, out of the Traverse City area. This is like literally probably, I would say probably in the top 3 or 4 most radically left representatives in Michigan. But for the most part, when you're what they call up north in Michigan, a lot of these guys are pretty good to go. So I look forward to meeting and talking about the Second Amendment to newly elected, and he is your representative now, no longer Representative-elect Carl Bonak. And let's see what he's all about, man. I mean, I'm eager to talk to him. I ain't going to give him the benefit of the doubt just because like he's a Republican. We can't do that. I don't know much about him though. So I'm definitely going to be checking that out. And I know like probably hardly like none of my viewers even live in the UP. Like a few of you do, but virtually none. So I hope I wasn't boring all the rest of you. But it's actually a very, very interesting place, not only in the state of Michigan, but in this country. So just if you ever have a chance, and I think Eugene Worth, I see him in the chat right now. He's a Youper. Maybe there's someone else. You guys do like people to come up there and visit, don't you? Like it's cool to come up and visit. Just don't bring your liberal views up there. But yeah, go visit sometime. It'd be a neat vacation for you and your family. Now, if you love guns and you're cool as heck, well, then you get along with those guys, and they'd probably love it if you came to visit. What's up, Christy Turtel? Hey, from Delaware. Hope to see you at inauguration. Well, I don't have any fancy contacts like Christy Turtel does, so I've not been invited to the inauguration, but I was the guest of Michigan Representative Jamie Thompson, and I did go to we won't call it inauguration, but the opening day ceremonies at the Michigan House of Representatives. And yeah, guys, I'm like as southeast Michigan as it gets practically. If you got just a little more east than me, like I guess you can measure it in the hundreds of feet. Actually, I'm not even joking. Okay. Maybe somebody who's watching here has been to my house, but like literally hundreds of feet from where I live, if you tried to go east, you'd be in the water. Okay. That's how close to Lake Erie I am. But you can't head much further south than where I'm at, or I'd be in the state of Ohio. So yeah, I know most of you guys live all over the place, not in the UP. I just wanted to talk about it for a minute because it's kind of a cool place, and I'm so proud of you guys and happy. Like I'm happy. Thank you for flipping that back over, that very important seat with Jen Hill. Yeah, these are not. Geez, I'm choking myself thinking about Jen Hill. Whew. Actually, I almost gagged thinking about her. You know what I mean? So I'm going to read a couple super chats and tell you guys some of the stuff that I discussed with some representatives and senators in Michigan, and what I would encourage all of you to advocate for, because I see a couple. Look, nothing's easy, right? Nothing's easy when we find ourselves in the shape we're in. But I see a couple plausible things that can be corrected here in the next 2 years, and one in particular that I hope is inevitable and probable. So there you go. I'm going to give you guys something to maybe look forward to that we can hopefully achieve together. Fun to learn coming in. A channel member and a $5 super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. He says, thanks for all your time and efforts. Any chance you ran into any Democrats in Lansing, maybe slightly more friendly to the 2A since the election? I haven't even met all of the new reps yet. I'm going to tell you, I hope so, but as of now, no. Now, in the last session, some of them said, look, there's a guy named Peter Hersberg. He's the one that edged out Josh Powell in the Westland area. He said he was pro-Second Amendment. That chicken poop, we'll just call him, wouldn't even talk to me. Wouldn't even talk to him. We have a mutual friend that literally set us both up in a text message thread. He wouldn't even talk to me about the Second Amendment at all. And I'm like the nicest guy ever. So some of these Democrats, they'll tell you they're pro-Second Amendment. They'll vote for gun control every single time. And they won't even talk to me for like 5 minutes or like 30 seconds about the Second Amendment. So maybe fun to learn. Probably not. Probably not, though, if you want my guess. But thank you for the super chat. Marco Polo, thank you for the super chat, man. I appreciate it. He says, don't give up. Oh, I'm not giving up, man. I'm not giving up. We got to report the bad. We got to report the good. I'm trying to discuss some future plans with you guys tonight. And by the way, screw the ATF. Don't even get me started on them. Thank you, Marco. Raptor Jesus with the super chat. Well, thank you, Raptor. I appreciate it. He says, good evening. Gonna go shovel some snow too at 6 a.m. Hey, man, be safe out there. How many of you guys are involved in shoveling snow? I said snuffling show, didn't I? Wow. I'm not even sleep deprived as of right now. I don't know what my excuse is. How many of you guys are involved in that? Whether it's your own driveway, yeah, posers, or if you do it for a living. No. Shout out to everyone that has to shovel their own driveway too. I get it. But let me know if there's anybody else in the snow removal business. And thank you for the super chat. G23, what's happening, man? Thanks for the super chat. Shout out to the G23 channel. He says, stand strong, Michigan. Well, I appreciate it, dude. I know you don't even live in Michigan, but I appreciate you hanging out with us every Friday night. And we certainly do appreciate your encouragement. And I encourage all of you as well. Thanks, G23. So, yeah, Oregon is how you spell it, right? G23, Oregun. They used to spell Michigan, Michigun, but nowadays, I don't know, a lot of people kind of, not so much. What's up with all these lightweights, by the way, living in Michigan nowadays? Well, the UP told Jen Hill where to go. I don't even know. Does she still live up there? She's fired, though. She literally got fired. Wow. Well, good night, Christy. I'm on inauguration committee. Oh, wow. Geez, I've got some fancy friends in the chat, don't I? Nice. Look, okay, so there's a couple things. When I showed up to the Anderson House office building, I got off on a whole tangent about that's where your reps work. But they work in many places, but that's where their office is, across the street from the actual Capitol building itself. Now, I've talked about this before. They put a weapon scanner in there, and that was on the policy of Speaker Tate. Former Speaker Taint, they call it. See, I always was trying to, I'm too nice. Oh, I'm too nice, they say. But I would always say Speaker Joe Tate. And then people kept telling me, dude, you're mispronouncing it. It's not Tate, it's Taint. Okay. Former Speaker Joe Taint, he was, like, these guys pronounce their name so many ways, I can't even keep track, so I just do the best of my ability. Speaker Taint put in a policy that there would be metal detectors, and they're actually advanced weapon scanners. This is much more, trust me. This ain't your mama's metal detector. This is like this advanced state-of-the-art. It shows it to them on a screen. They can see where the potential weapon is, what it is, the shape of it, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, Christopher Bishop, that's what they told me. They said it's not Tate, it's Taint. So, again, how do you know when they can't even... You remember? My name's Kamala. My name's Kamala. My name's Carmela. My name's... Oh, they can't even pronounce it. Nobody can. So I always just went with Kamala, because she kind of looks like a camel, you know, like the dromedary. And when I say these people aren't good looking, trust me, I get it. These are not good looking people on the inside either. None of them are. The current former vice president, Kamala, I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, so Speaker Taint put up this metal detector advanced weapon system. It's essentially, yeah, like imagine like taking a metal detector and juicing it up with steroids constantly. You guys can tell me the names of all these people in the chat. I'll read it afterwards and get educated. What's the names of all these different people? I can't pronounce them. But I went in there on the 8th, and I'm like, okay, it's still there. Now, look, it's called the Big Ask, but I was kind of hoping when I showed up right on the 8th, on the very first day of session, that would be gone. Because he kind of put it in essentially overnight, but it did take him probably a few weeks total, and without any type of vote whatsoever from the legislators. There was no new law passed banning any types of weapons or guns from the Anderson House office building. The weapons detectors are still there. That's actually one of my priorities right now, and I want to urge all of you to urge your duly elected representatives. Now, this is more of a representative thing than a Senate thing because this is the Anderson House office building. The Senate, their offices are in what's called the Binsfield building, and they do not have such policy, and there are no such scanners there. So this particular issue is going to be your Michigan representative. You only have one, okay? You have one Michigan representative. You have one Michigan senator. You have one United States congressman, and you have two United States senators. People have told me in the past, but that's why this is the 2A Edu channel. I'm trying to educate. People have said stuff along the lines of, I emailed all 5 of my Michigan reps. And I'm like, well, no, you didn't, because you only have one. So go to Michigan House of Representatives. Just type it into your Google or your Brave or whatever your browser is that you use. It'll take you right to their site, right on the homepage, find my representative. That's how you find your Michigan representative. And let them know that you want that weapon scanner gone from the Anderson House office building right away. Because there is no gun problem within the Anderson House office building. And there never has been. Likewise, there's no problems with it in the Michigan Capitol building across the street. Built in 1872. Nobody's ever shot anybody in there. Think about that. 1872. There's never been a problem. Now I feel more unsafe because criminals still have ways to evade all these. All right. A true criminal that knows what they're doing, they know exactly how to get around all of it. And again, gun-free zones, no, they're criminal empowerment zones because a sign on the door, or in many cases a detector, it might stop people like me and you that are just trying to go in there to exercise our First Amendment protected right to talk to our elected public servants. But someone that knows what they're doing that needs in there, it doesn't stop. You know what I'm saying? They know their way around it. I want that to be gone like immediately. I was talking to quite a few reps, and they're assuring me that there's a plan. There's a plan to get it out of there. Now I said, all right, I guess it can't literally be there on day one because I was there in the morning, and technically he was Speaker-elect Matt Hall. Right now, look, I'm not cutting this guy any slack. He voted for gun control. In fact, I'm going to scrutinize him more than anybody, and I think that's totally fair, right? Now, I'm hoping by us calling him out so much over the last 2 years since he voted for gun control, for me having his primary opponent on this channel sitting right next to me so you guys could hear of an alternative to see whose views you liked better for the election. And I wish him the best of luck, but he lost. Matt Hall won the re-election, but he was technically Speaker-elect right up until they actually made it official during the ceremony. So I guess I was being a little bit antsy, thinking he could have got rid of it like essentially before he actually had the gavel handed to him. Now he's got the gavel. I think maybe, now this isn't saying I'm fine with this. Like, it's never fine that it was there for even 10 seconds, but just the way things physically work, maybe give him a few days or a week. Now, look, guys, totally understand what I'm talking about here. Philosophically, give them 0 seconds, not an inch. If that thing's in place for even 1/1000th of a second, it's a 100% infringement, right? Okay, that said, we do live in the real world, and logistically, there's like physical logistics. Like, all right, they have to pen an order up, however that would work. File it with such and such, right? And then I guess somebody from, maybe it's a maintenance department, it might be a contractor, maybe they're leasing the equipment. So maybe they have to go in there and, like, there's the physicalness, right? Like, physically disconnect the cables, physically unbolt it, put it in the box, put it in the truck, drive it away. So I guess there's like a certain amount of logistical time that needs to be taken to get rid of it. So I don't know. I'm going to be on them literally as quick as Monday if I find out that it's still there. And I will be back in Lansing next Thursday because that and some other things I'm about to discuss, I want to do some follow-ups on. So that's one of the big things. Get rid of the gun-free zone. Now, if you have a CPL right now under Speaker Taint's policy, you can still go in there. You just have to show your CPL. But I'm sorry, a CPL, I reject the notion that there should even be such a thing. We're not supposed to live in a two-tiered society. We're not supposed to be rights for me, but not for thee. And since you have to pay for a CPL, both the training, the required range time that you have to shoot even in between when you go to renew, the fee that you have to pay to initially get and also renew, that's literally akin to a poll tax. That's saying, oh, sure, you can vote. You just have to pay to go to the polls. Now, almost everybody would reject that outright, but for some reason, so many people, and I don't mean just the other side, because they just want to ban all guns, period, and they probably want to ban your spork, like what they give you at Taco Bell, if they could, and in other countries, they are actually. Don't believe me? Go look up what they're doing in Europe. But there's even a lot of people within the gun community, a lot of people that like that fact. They're like, I'm a CPL holder, so that makes me a better man. And the lowly plebes that don't have the CPL, they shouldn't be able to frequent places I do. No, that's BS. First of all, I do have a CPL. Under duress, reluctantly, I hate every bit of it. And I'm not ashamed to admit to you guys, because I'm always very frank with you and open. And I'll tell you guys the truth, but in another sense, I'm kind of ashamed to even admit I have one, because you shouldn't need one at all. I completely reject the premise. But it comes down to be able to exercise my First Amendment protected rights. They put you in a situation where you have to forgo your Second Amendment protected rights. So I could stand on the corner of the building and scream and hold a sign up and say, I can't go in and talk to my state representative, or like I literally talked to dozens of state representatives 2 days ago. All productive conversations, by the way. Stuff where we're pushing the ball forward to see what we can do right now to slowly start chipping some of this stuff back. And then also for people to understand there's hopefully a difference between this Republican-led House. Hopefully that will inspire people to come out and vote and flip the Michigan Senate and governorship to, I don't care if they're Republican or not, they'll probably have to end up being a Republican, the way the two-party system works, but a pro-Second Amendment majority in the Senate and a pro-Second Amendment governor, and then re-elect a pro-Second Amendment House. That's our way we can literally start getting rid of this stuff. Now, here's the thing. The Republicans were in the majority for decades and didn't repeal. They did repeal some things, but not much. But I wasn't there for the last 40 years. I'm going to keep going there. Trust me, guys. I'm going to push the ball on this with the help of all of you. But anyways, it comes back to this again. I could stand on the corner and be like, all right, I won't have productive conversations with all these representatives. And by the way, on behalf of my viewers, see, when I go in their offices, I talk to them. Most of them already know who I am. Most of them watch the channel, actually. So shout out to all the Second Amendment supporting Michigan representatives and senators who watch the channel. You know, some of these guys and gals are actually pretty cool, believe it or not. Look, when I say I reject the two-party system, I don't like Democrats, certainly. Don't like the Republican Party either. It doesn't mean there's not some good people up there. Don't believe me? I'll introduce you to some of them. Some of you guys have shotguns with Jamie Thompson. Some of you have hung out with her. Look, and others, but there's cool people up there. Some of them are actually all right. We need to get behind those. But anyways, I'm up there. I'm like, hey, I have viewers in your district, like a lot of them. And this is what they're demanding. This is what we're demanding. Well, I also want to be armed while I'm doing that because I don't believe in trade-offs. So then I go and get a CPL, which is completely unconstitutional, so I can carry in certain places where I otherwise couldn't. It's a complete conundrum. I'm sick of all of it. Shouldn't have to deal with it. So there you go. There's my thoughts on CPL. But with a CPL, you can still get in with the weapon scanner. Now, this is just for the Anderson House office building, not the Capitol building. That's completely hands-off unless you're a current sitting legislator, representative, or senator. Then, of course, you can carry a gun with a CPL because, well, they got exempted from the Capitol Commission rule. But either way, somebody open carrying, yeah, you shouldn't need a license. You shouldn't need a license to conceal or open carry. But under the current laws we live under, if you don't have a CPL, you'd have to open carry. You would not be able to go in there unless you have a CPL right now or choose to disarm yourself. So that needs to go right away. Make sure you get in touch with your representatives and tell them, yeah, man, that Anderson House office building, weapon scanners and all of that needs gone like immediately. There's two other things that I think could be taken care of to a large extent, if not outright, just simply to do with the House having the power of the purse. with budgets originating from the House. Now, this is something you'll notice is in common with the United States House of Representatives. Now, in the Michigan House, they have to pass a budget every year. Now, if you remember back, the budget, I guess it'd be the 2023, it was voted on in 23 for 2024. They allocated millions and millions of dollars to these advanced weapon scanners for the Michigan Capitol building. Now, those scanners were put in place by a rule from this commission, the Capitol Commission. These are completely unelected people. Most people have never even heard of them, but they get appointed by the governor. They get appointed by the Senate. They get appointed by the House. Now, the majority of these commissioners, I don't want to say elected commissioners because they're not. It's like this totally deep state, like shadowy government that like hides in the deepest, darkest corridors of the basement, like lurking around. No, I'm being serious. This is goofy stuff. They're supposed to be in charge of preserving the paintings, mowing the lawn. Light bulbs burn out. Well, you want a light bulb so people don't trip entering and exiting the building. I mean, there is a purpose for them to exist, but Dana Nessel, anyone heard of her? You don't really want to hear of her too much. This is not a good person. Dana Nessel told them, no, you guys have the authority to ban guns at the Capitol. So they did. But they said, we can't do anything about it. We don't have the funding to put in all the necessary weapon scanners and the very extensive payroll of all of the Michigan State troopers that have to be there now guarding the entrance. There's a good number of them there. There's a group of them, at least 4 or 5 or 6, or sometimes even a lot more than that, that when you walk in and it goes off, they're like, right over here, sir. I had it go off every time I walked in there, by the way. Over here, sir, we need to check your bags. And a lot of them were telling me we need to check you again because I was coming and going. I was a busybody. I was going here. I was going there. I was in the Senate. I was in the House. I was in the House office building. Ask Jane Locke how much we were walking around. She's wearing high heels. I had her walking all over the place, didn't I, Jane? But anyways, I'm serious. When I go up there, I'm busy. I was going, and some of the guys are looking at me, sir, we need to check you yet again. You've tripped the weapon scanner yet again. I'm like, well, yeah, just me in and of myself is considered a deadly weapon. You know what I mean? They look at me walk through, and I just kind of nonchalant with the little hair flip, just kind of, they're like, oh, wow, did you register those? And then they asked me if I had, do you have a permit for those guns, sir? So that they pull me aside, and it kind of reminds you of like, not quite as intrusive, but kind of like a TSA. They have this little wand. They're like, woo, 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 woo. And I'm like, so anyways, whatever. You're going through. Now, will the House be able to pass a law right now saying we repeal the Capitol Commission's rule on the Capitol building being a gun-free zone? No, but they don't need to, actually. This is something for you all to think about when you're talking to your state reps and senators when it comes to this, because this is the Capitol building we're talking about now, previously the Anderson House office building. Actually, yes, in my opinion, they can stop it. And in several of the representatives' opinions, they can stop it. And that's simply by not funding it. So when they come up for more funding again, just tell them do not vote or pass a budget that has anything in there funding this Capitol Commission and their gun ban. You know what I mean? Like literally. Now, if they add a provision to the budget saying, now, first of all, the budget's very narrow in Michigan, what they can add to it and what they can't. But if they try to do something like that said we won't fund it, if you put something in the affirmative in the budget, the governor has what's called a line item veto. So it's not like the whole bill passes or the whole bill gets vetoed. She can pick the parts of it she doesn't like, veto these things, and then the rest of it can still go through. So that's not the strategy. What the strategy simply is, though, is you just defund. You refuse to pass the allocation of funds that are required to keep this beast operating. Does that make sense? So I guess in layman's terms, what you tell your representative and senator, this is Michigan we're talking about here yet again. And by the way, none of this has anything to do with Trump getting inaugurated. I know we're all super excited about that, but we're talking state level politics right now. Trump is the president-elect for the United States of America. Gretchen Whitmer is the chief executive for Michigan. I shouldn't have to say it, but I kind of actually do, because people are like, Trump will come in and nullify all of this that Michigan did, like on his first day. Now, the president could actually do things if he wanted to. Maybe he will, but probably not. He could do things like play hardball with the state, and so they corrected their ways on certain things in his opinion. But then we get into like federalism, and I believe in the 10th Amendment that the states should have more powers than the federal government. So as much as I like Trump doing that here, I wouldn't want that going on, because it's Trump today. It's the current today it's still the current former vice president. It's the current former vice president today. Then it's Trump tomorrow. Then it could be Whitmer. Whitmer could be the president. And I mean, trust me, I'm not jinxing us. I'm just saying Whitmer could be the president in 4 years. She'll probably actually run. Now, I don't have any type of, look, I'm trying to be very optimistically hopeful. But I don't have anything to prove that Trump's going to do anything great for the Second Amendment, considering his bump stock ban and red flag laws and many other things he said and done. But that's a whole aside. That's a whole separate topic. We talked about that before. But no, this is stuff that needs to be sorted out on the state level. Okay? We're supposed to be these United States, not the one supreme unilateral federal government. So back to this again. Yes, Trump won. I guess he's the first convicted felon president. He will be here in a couple weeks. He did get convicted today, although sentenced to absolutely nothing. I guess on paper, first felon. Remember Future Felons of America with the pistol braces? We're going to have to find that again. We'll actually have the patch, but I don't want to reach back there, because sometimes when I reach, they nuke the stream. You know what I mean? But anyways, I digress. Tell your Michigan representative and senator. You guys remember the Future Felons of America with the pistol braces? We used to have a t-shirt for it here. I need to get some merch back eventually. Patches. Those patches are limited edition now. There's barely any left, but I think I still have one or two. Now the ATF saying pistol braces are illegal again or something, I guess. Watch my video I put out earlier. But tell your Michigan representative and senator, defund, do not vote for. Now, specifically the House, you're going to talk to the most on this because they have the Republican majority. Don't vote on a budget bill that funds this gun-free zone within the Capitol, because it costs them tons of money to do it. If they pass a budget without appropriating funds to it, it'll cease to exist. So there's one thing that can be overturned. Because remember, the Democrats tried to pass a law banning guns from the Capitol on a permanent basis. That law did not pass. We dodged a huge bullet with that breaking news from a couple weeks ago. A quorum of the House is not present, I told you guys. All Republicans in the House walked out, every last one of them, as well as one Democrat. Her name's Karen Whitsett. We love her to death, actually. Hopefully you guys send her flowers or a thank you card or something. I think you can send her like a couple flowers. Don't send your rep too much of a gift, though. You'll have to register as a lobbyist, so no legal advice. But hopefully you guys send her a thank you card. Here's the crazy part. She's actually no friend of the Second Amendment at all. But by this weird thing that was nothing short of a miracle, all of the Michigan House Republicans, every last one of them, as well as one Democrat, stopped all that. So that law that was going to ban from the Senate Bensfield office building, Anderson House office building, right, and the Capitol building, that law did not pass, which means we're still under a Capitol Commission rule. All right, one more thing. There was a 1-800-TIP hotline that got passed in the school aid budget. That was a bad one. A lot of reps didn't even know what they were voting on. In my opinion, there was some pretty poor things going on with leadership within the Republican caucus. I'm just calling a spade a spade. You know what I mean? We're calling these people out, trying to give them some very stern encouragement, hoping they're going to change their ways, whether they see our side or because they're truly remorseful, or if nothing else, that they just want to get reelected again. Either way, we call them out for what they do because we want them to do better. Just calling them out to be mean doesn't really get you anywhere, though. Okay? So they need to defund the crap out of almost immediately, and that's going to be one of my other priorities. So The budget isn't getting voted on for a little bit yet. It's just first things first, right? But this is why I want you guys to be thinking about and working on all this with your emails. When you go talk to your state rep, hopefully in person, or you go to their coffee hours, things like that. Especially if they're a Republican. If they're a Republican, look, if all the Democrats vote no on the Republican budget, or a lot of them do, and just a handful of Republicans vote no on the Republican budget, let's just say hypothetically, they cram, we're going to refund all this stuff with the Capitol Commission and this tip hotline where students can rat out their parents for the way they're storing guns from within the home. And now this new bill that's going to be law, I can't imagine Gretchen won't sign it, where they're going to be sending stuff to the schools to educate the children on the, quote, safe storage of firearms within the home. See, this all works together. But that tip hotline did get funded. And a lot of the very pro-Second Amendment reps didn't exactly even know what it was. Some of them didn't even know it was in there at all. And some of them knew there was something in there, but they thought it was something different than what it was. So that is what it is. Look, I don't give people a pass for not reading every word, but I don't hang them out at the stake for this one thing as much. Now, if they purposely, knowingly said, I'm going to do this, well, then I would. But I know how quick all this stuff goes, and they get sent hundreds of pages of legislation, extremely short period of time to read it. It is what it is, but it needs rectified now. Let's just leave it that way. It needs to be rectified right now, this session. So we're going to encourage them also not to pass any budgets, whether it's for a school aid bill or otherwise, that funds any forms of these gun control, these workaround gun control, right? Does that make sense? Here's the crazy part, Midwest Logger, and I agree with you, actually. He says, got to get the kids out of public schools and off devices. Yes, sir. You want to know how sick and twisted these? I'm trying to think of a very family-friendly way to say this. These SOBs did. When I say these are not good people, I am being very friendly. Too friendly, some people said. But that new one where they're going to send this indoctrination to all the schools to talk about at the very least, but it said at least, which means it could include just so much more. There's almost infinite possibilities. The MDHHS is going to be sending to all schools, public and non-public. Wow. Now, I had a longtime viewer, Nancy Kornicki, left me a comment in that video I put out last night and said, this includes your charter schools and your home schools, right? Now, charter schools, yeah. I think in the videos I just said private schools, and that was an oversight of mine. I should have said this includes not only your public schools, but your private schools and charter schools. This may also include the home schools. I think technically if your kid is homeschooled, your home is considered the school. And some people also go to you know what I'm saying? Some people go to these consortiums for homeschool. I think even those are going to be getting it. Now, how's that even possible? Well, actually, how's any gun control possible in a country where the supreme law of the land says shall not be infringed? But I still agree with everything you said, Midwest Logger. That wasn't me saying, well, who cares? No, you're right, actually. And I commend all of you who are able to homeschool. Or maybe send your kid to a certain private school where they have a good curriculum that's not indoctrinating them into the public school industrial complex. But no, man, they're going to send this indoctrination from MDHHS. Do you remember all the stuff they did with the so-called Kung flu that we had a few years ago? We still have it. It's here forever, right? No, they're right on the whole commie playbook. The Mao, the Cultural Revolution, the communists of all different iterations. If you see something, say something. Turn the children against their parents. Maybe some of the parents still love the Constitution and remember what it says. But if you get the kids to hate the Constitution and to hate their parents, and turn in their parents and make their parents where they're afraid of their own children because they could send them to the gulag or the whatever. Go back and look up Mao's color revolution, also called cultural revolution. And you'll see literally exactly what I'm talking about. Pointed stories of these kids that had joined basically Mao's youth army, dragging, in one case, a principal right out of the building and beating them mercilessly in the street. People ratting out their own parents, who in many cases would disappear. In other words, they were dead. In many, many more cases, marched around in shame. And also in many, many cases, beat mercilessly. Look, so many millions of people died under Mao's cultural revolution, we'll never even know. There's not records kept of that. For the longest time, they said, well, in Germany, they said, well, maybe it was 11 million. And that was considered the biggest travesty. And then they said, well, maybe Mao actually took out 50 million. Now some people are seeming to believe it might be 100 to 150 million people died. He literally mandated that they would melt down their plowshares, their plows, their agricultural implements. Now, all of these 150, and there are experts that say it could have been that many that died under Chairman Mao in communist China. They didn't all die from firing squads or from getting beat in the streets by the youth or the whatever, although many of them actually did. A lot of them just starved to death. Because they would go by and talk them all and talk them into it, if you know what I mean. The old wink, wink, good buddy, talk you into it, right? Do you want to die of starvation in 6 months, or die right now? And we'll melt your farm equipment down where you can no longer farm or feed your family. They use it for the war machine, the military industrial complex, which, by the way, is mostly what's fueling the United States. That, big pharma, everything in this country is now basically turned into an industrial complex. That's why I'm saying try to focus on your local government the best you can. And federal issues too, of course, obviously, but it's crazy. But they're trying to get Mao-style revolution, in my opinion, going with these things through the MDHHS, through the schools, through the children, trying to demonize firearms, teaching them that the way dad and mom store their firearms is bad, and these are not good people, and it's not safe, and that your parents are now a public health crisis. And your parents are so abhorrent, you should probably call us. We're from the government. We're here to help. Remember that. That should be like scare the living daylights out of you just thinking about such a thing, right? But yeah. There's a tip hotline that needs defunded like right now. Right now. I challenge you and urge you to challenge and urge these Republican majority in the House. That needs defunded, gone, like immediately. And I know a lot of you probably don't believe me, so if you don't believe me, believe Jane Locke. She said it in the comments a few minutes ago. She said, hey, everyone, the reps really do pay attention to what you want when you email or call their office. You have more influence than you thought. Like I said, don't take it from me, but here's the thing. It's actually true. Now, here's the problem. And I'm trying to be like encouragement. I'm like, I know I'm not like cute enough to do it. I don't have pom-poms, but I'm trying to be the cheerleader right now. I'm trying to get you guys to do this. In the state of Michigan, I'm giving you the exact issues, but in all 50 of these United States, what I'm talking about has something to do with everybody out there. All right. But here's the problem though, right, Jane? Here's the problem. And this is a big, big problem, guys. And this is where I encourage you. I'll talk to your friends, your family, people that are in your social sphere, whatever you want to call it, people you talk to, right? Like, you got to start getting more involved. We got to push the ball forward because it's very powerful if even one person calls, writes, visits in person. That's even better. Visiting in person, really good. Call their office and schedule an appointment. No, I'm serious. Schedule an appointment. Say, I would like to see my representative and talk to them. Now, you're not going to be able to talk to them all day. They have 90,000 constituents to represent, so keep that in mind. Okay? You know how many times I've talked to my representative, Jamie Thompson? Same thing with my senator. Just the other day, sometimes I talk to them while we're walking, while we're in the elevator. Like I'm following them to wherever they're going, so I can just brief them on a few things, request a few things, see if they know about a few things. You know what I mean? But unless you guys want to be doing that, running around Lansing all day like a chicken with your head cut off, and Jane will assure you that I do physically go around a lot when I'm there. And I appreciate all of your support, guys, so that I can afford to do that. But no, just call them up and make an appointment with them and say, I'd like to speak with the representative for a few minutes in their office about the Second Amendment. Write down some little notes, some stuff we're talking about tonight, or maybe much better things that you're thinking of to say than I ever could, and go do it. The problem is nobody does it. Now, I don't mean literally nobody does it. I know some of you do, but in a state with about 10 million people, dwindling fast, though, actually. Maybe it's about 9 million now, they say, but it's dwindling fast. But we'll say roughly 10 million people. If there's 10 people that calls about one Second Amendment issue, we're doing pretty good. No, that's unacceptable. That sucks. So I'm asking you guys to try to help out with that. Not that you all suck, just that a lot of your friends that own guns and love to shoot all the time, they kind of suck pretty bad when it comes to not doing anything at all to help support the Second Amendment. I know some of you are nodding right now, being like, yeah, actually. We have a generous $20 super chat from David Schomburger. Well, thank you, David. I appreciate it, man. I don't see a message, but if you did leave a message and it got cut off or whatever, type it in the chat and I will be sure to at least read it on replay. But thank you, man. I do appreciate the super chat. And hey, man, all of you guys, it all helps. The many ways you guys support the channel. Somebody did ask me, by the way, about Cash App. I do also have Cash App. That's in the description. I'm going to go back to Lansing yet again this Thursday. Okay. No, I'm not running for office, guys. Someone said, well, why don't you just run for office since you're up there all the time? No. I need to be up there doing what I'm doing. Costs money to go up there. I don't get paid to be a representative, but I don't want to be a representative for two reasons. First of all, I have an awesome Michigan State representative, actually, and I need to get behind her because it's hard for them to keep up with everything at every exact moment in time. So I'm very well represented, and like they all do. All of these good ones need your help as much as they can. My representative needs my help standing in her corner, for the Second Amendment, because trust me, it is a lot like a boxing match. I'm being dead serious. These people are nasty up there, man. It's like you're sitting there like your representative's out there in the ring, and this is if they're a good one, and it's a ninth round, their face is bloody and this and that, and it's like you need to be in their corner. When the bell rings before the last round, you need to be in there squirting some water in their mouth and wiping the blood off their eyes so they can. I'm actually not even being hyperbolic. Like they can get pretty nasty in there, right? So yeah. And second of all, I don't want nothing to do with politics. See, some of you guys might actually think that I like politics since like I'm at my state capitol all the time. I'm always keeping up on these issues. No, I just want to be free. And I just love the Second Amendment and the Constitution. And if you don't do anything, someone else is. And the other side's always doing stuff to undermine. So I have to engage. Now, there are some benefits. I have actually met some really, really good people along the way. Like people in this chat right now. I've met a lot of you in real life. So there are some fringe benefits. You get to meet some good friends along the way. There's even some representatives that are actually pretty cool people, believe it or not. Again, don't believe me, go up there and meet some of them for yourself. Some of them are actually all right. There's some cool senators, but no, man, I hate politics, guys. I know that's what some people are called to do, and we do need good people, but I'll go to Lansing a lot, as much as I need to keep pushing that ball forward, and I appreciate all of you guys who make that possible. Thank you, David. And we also have Bill Dietz with a super chat. Well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. And I don't see a message there, but I do appreciate the tip. And you help sponsor the channel. And yeah, man, I want to go back, and I have an agenda in my head, like a personal agenda. And I don't know, like, I guess here's the thing. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it, man. But I guess I am, like, in a little bit of a way, a representative, if you think about it, like the two-way representative, right? A lot of you guys are like, dude, we're with you. We're just as hardcore as you are. We just can't go. We can't do it no matter what. I know some of you can't do it, like no matter what. So I guess I go there on the behalf of the people who can't, right? So there you guys go. We can all be happy at the end of the day. I'm never running for any kind of elected office ever. And I literally don't want to at all. Like God bless the people that do, that are doing a good job, that take their oath seriously. I take nothing away from them. But to me, not appealing at all. Just get away. No. That would be like a sentence. You're sentenced to having to be a politician. I don't want to be one. Okay. But yeah, I guess I just thought of that tonight. I am kind of serving as a representative, right? Trying to represent everybody for the Second Amendment. And the Second Amendment should not be political at all. That's actually what I hate so bad about it. If there does need to be politics, it should be over other types of issues. Things that might be kind of on the margins, or the little gray area of how things ought to be with certain things. Because they will literally vote, and this is in the Michigan House of Representatives and Senators, they will vote to say, well, we want to name this 5 miles of Interstate 96. We want to name it the Joe Bob Freeway. Because Joe Bob was a good man, and this is what he did. And I'm just saying Joe Bob because I can't think of anyone's actual name. You could debate about that, and there could be arguments of, well, Jim Bob was probably a better name for this part of the freeway than Joe Bob, and you could politicize it, and you could go on, and there's different things like that, I guess. But the Second Amendment, that's the supreme law of the land. That should not even be up for debate. That shouldn't be up for vote. To me, and tell me if this sounds kind of extreme, but I think this just shows you how milquetoast all of us have gotten. We need to start eating crunchy toast again, guys. Stop dipping your toast in milk. It's not good. We need some more strong men for once. We've gotten to the point, though, where here's the thing. Think about this. Now they just introduce all these gun control bills, and nothing even happens to them at all. It should be like a high crime, practically akin to treason, for someone to even consider. I'm not talking voting on one. I'm not even talking passing it. Oh my gosh, no. I'm just saying, if somebody even went there as a legislator and said, I hereby submit to the clerk this bill that would infringe on the Second Amendment, that person is literally committing, in my opinion, a felony. When you break the supreme law of the land, right? That should be a crime. See, everybody in America believes that murder. Now, there's what's called justifiable homicide, self-defense. I'm being very clear the way I word this. Everybody agrees murder. That violates not only the laws of the state, but the laws of God, and anyone with any moral compass that's not a completely evil, demented, nasty human being believes murder is wrong. Shouldn't it be the same way that if anybody ever tried to violate the Bill of Rights, they'd be looked at like they committed a crime akin to murder? Shouldn't it be where everybody in this whole country agrees that if you, look, it literally says, shall not be infringed. If you were to even consider trying to even introduce a gun control law, you're literally breaking the supreme law of the land. And when people like me and people like you break a supreme law, there's a supreme prison sentence that goes along with that almost immediately. So this whole thing where, look, should it be politicized? Shouldn't it be politicized? No, the Second Amendment should never be politicized. And I actually mean this. Anyone who's even so much as presented a gun control bill, well, that's attempting a crime. And if there was more than one rep, aka the co-sponsors of the gun control bill, now that should be conspiracy to commit a crime. That's how it works in the legal system. If more than one person is involved in, now it's called a conspiracy. Think about that for a minute. And then keep in mind, deprivation of rights under color of law, that's actually a United States statute that's punishable by up to death. By up to death, up to and including death. There's a tier of different punishments, but it's called deprivation of rights under color of law. So no, that's what frustrates me so much. of all the issues that we should have to deal with in politics, we should not have to even be talking about the Second Amendment when it becomes the laws, but we do. So, yeah. For a guy that seems to be involved in politics a whole lot, I don't like politics. I really don't. I just love the Second Amendment, and unfortunately, it's become political long before my time. Yeah, the Bill of Rights does. It applies to the right of the people. The right of the people to keep and bear arms. That would mean Americans. All Americans. And it tells the government shall not be infringed. Yeah. Yeah, I think some of you guys actually agree with me. Yeah. Yeah. Too Tall Sale says being free should not require politics. I agree. I know. We find ourselves right here in political season. But hey, you can either engage with it or it's going to engage you. It's true. D. Pesbo, channel member and a super chat. Well, thank you. Says 2A every day. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And thank you for the super chat. Now, speaking of looking at that Minuteman there, that makes me think of the GOA. What did you guys think of that video that I put out this evening, about an hour and a half before the stream, something like that? That was a pretty good letter by Eric Pratt. He's the head of the GOA. That was a pretty good letter, actually. So the ATF, I guess, is literally now saying that this is what they told a GOA member who inquired to them on the legality of a pistol brace. And they basically said any pistol brace on any pistol automatically just makes it an SBR, I guess, or more specifically on his CZ Scorpion. But there's a big problem with that, besides the obvious shall not be infringed. But yet here we are. So even under the current draconian system that we try to live under, this sucks that we have to try to live under something. You should be able to just like live and enjoy how short your life is, because about the only thing that's guaranteed there is written in the Bible that life's short and it's full of problems. And life is but a vapor, it appeareth and then vanisheth away. But no, we have to be mired in all of this. Yeah, here we are, where the supreme law of the land doesn't really mean much. It means, I guess, nothing, and according to these tyrants. But this pistol brace rule, dude, it was totally shot down and vacated nationwide by a federal judge, where it wouldn't affect anybody in the whole country. Now, that notwithstanding, there was another case where it was enjoined, where there's an injunction for the named plaintiffs and all GOA members and their families within the residence. These are like actually court orders from federal judges. This isn't a suggestion. This is the court ordering that the ATF cannot be promulgating or advancing or prosecuting or doing anything under these rules. Well, it appears, and I read almost the whole letter on that video, so make sure you watch that. And if you want to read the letter itself, I have a complete unedited version of it over on my locals community. It's the pinned post right on the top there as of right now. But yeah, it's literally insane. Like the one judge literally vacated it and says there is no rule. Another federal district court judge said that there's an injunction for, like I said, GOA and its members and others, but there's like 2 or 3 other courts that also rule against this under different criteria. This thing's been shot out of the sky so many times, it's like, but somehow out of the blue, the ATF still thinks they can do something like this. And that's why I said, in my opinion, this is contempt of court. Me and you, if you don't say your honor to the judge, they can reprimand you and yell at you, and you do it again. It's contempt of court. Bailiff, take them away. I mean, maybe some of you guys have been to court for it. You know, you're like, with all due respect, Your Honor, You can take this fine and stick it where the sun don't shine. Maybe some of you have done it, right? Or you know someone who has. Contempt of court, bailiff, take him away, 30 days. I'm not joking either. Like, I've known people that have literally said that. I know a guy that literally said, and I believe him too. He said, Your Honor, you can take this fine and stick it where the sun don't shine. And he kind of with it. Wow. You know, it's kind of cool, actually. He's actually kind of a cool dude, believe it or not. You guys can believe it. But he said, this is how it actually started. It's actually a little more dramatic than that. It says, contempt of court, 15 days. He goes, on my head. All right. Well, 30 days. Anything else? No, Your Honor. Bailiff, take him away. Like, this stuff literally happens for contempt of court. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. Do you guys think the ATF will go to jail? I don't know. We'll see. Look, I said this in the video very clearly because I'm already getting questions on this. 2A EDU, should I do? What should I do? Look, I can't give legal advice, okay? I'm not a lawyer. And even if I was, I wouldn't be yours, and I'm not one in any way, shape, or form. However, no way did I suggest anyone do anything. So I am not suggesting that anyone runs out there and destroys their braze, buries it. I'm not suggesting boating accidents, anything like that. Of course, I can't tell you, you're good to go. You can keep it. I can't say that. That would be legal advice, and I don't want anyone to get in any trouble. And you just can't give legal advice legally unless you're a lawyer. So I'll just leave it at that. Okay? I'm not telling anyone to break any laws or anything, but I'm also not telling anybody to run around and have a powwow and start setting your braces on fire or burning them or anything. All right? We'll just leave it at that. Now, I don't think any of my viewers are really doing that. I hope they're not. Are any of you guys out there having a powwow right now where you've gathered around? Come on, all ye people, gather around, and you've got like 15 of you from your local neighborhood, and you're just heaping all your braces on the bonfire? Is there anyone? Let me know. I hope nobody's doing that. Jeez, oh, Pete, I joke. Wow, somebody just said that. No, don't do that. I mean, well, I can't tell you what to do. No, actually, you guys are free people. Here's the crazy part about this. If you want to, that's your right. If you paid for it, and as long as the fire isn't destroying anyone else's property, you can burn it. I'm not going to stop you, actually. If you wanted my personal preference, I hope you guys aren't out all there like having big bonfires burning all your expensive braces. But I do have to be honest. If you want to do it, then go for it, you know. I can't stop you either. Sometimes I get so mad at people. I'm like, stop complying with this crap, people. But then I have to watch myself because, look, I can be a hypocrite like anybody, obviously. And I'm giving you an instance of it right now. It's like, nope. A free person can destroy their own property if they want, I guess. Very anti-American of them, though, if they're destroying their own guns, because a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Well, how can you be a well-regulated militia if you're burning your arms? But I guess I can't stop them. I don't know. And then it also talks about it's your right, it's your duty to throw off a tyrannical government in the Declaration of Independence. So it's not only your right, but it's your duty. So it would have been looked at by Thomas Jefferson and the Founding Fathers, certainly, and I actually agree with them, by the way, that it is an abdication of duty if you're not well-armed. It's true. And if you don't throw off a tyrannical government, that's literally what the Founding Fathers said. But I guess, like, I'd be a tyrant in my own right if I was, like, physically preventing my viewers from having said bonfire, I guess, right? I don't know. Fun to Learn says, 2A EDU, you make politics better. I mean, I try. Look, I have fun talking about it with you guys. You know what I mean? It's just, could you imagine having to sit through these boring committees and all these different things these people have to do? It's like, wow, I'm glad some of them can do it. I wish most of them weren't doing it at all, actually. But some people that are up there fighting the good fight in Lansing, I'm glad they can sit through all these committees, because I'd be sitting there fidgeting around being like, all right, I got to get to the range. You know, I got to put some more rounds through my my PSA AK, or I've got to shoot the micro dagger a little more right now. I'd be thinking about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. No, we do fashion shows here. Do you remember that? Remember that? See, some of these people, it's like you don't want to remember. Maybe you do, but you don't want to remember. Remember Lori Pohutsky that day? We were watching her. It was like 3 a.m. She's trying to pass more gun control in the middle of the night, right? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, whoa, is she wearing a burlap sack? Do you guys remember that? Like, you can't even make this stuff up, right? Right, Fun to Learn? Like, you're sitting there watching your natural God-given right to keep and bear arms getting shredded, but it's like, whoa. She's wearing it. Do you guys remember that? So she's wearing this burlap sack. And then we were counting how many Diet Coke she was drinking. What's up, Lucky Dog 350X? Now, I agree. That's Marbury v. Madison he's citing. Very early Supreme Court precedent. 1803. That was a good year. Back in the year 1803, in the year of our Lord, 1803, we actually had a Supreme Court that said all laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are void. Just think about that for a minute. Now, I don't know. So here's the thing. I saw Lori Pohutsky. Can you guys believe this? Face to face. So I'm in the gallery talking to some of the nicer reps, shaking their hand, you know, because here's the thing. The first day, opening day, is kind of like a little bit of a celebration, if you will. It's a ceremony, right? But we're also down to business talking about the Second Amendment. But I'm like, oh, there's Jay DeBoyer. Does anyone know Representative Jay DeBoyer? So I see him. I'm like, what's happening, man? And look, these guys that are the good ones, they thank me right away for being there too. I'm like, all right, you guys getting some bills ready? Let's talk. So I'm talking to him. I see him. I see Mike Hoadley. He's another good one. What's happening, man? I see, oh gosh, I could just keep going on and on. Jamie Thompson, obviously. I was hanging out with her quite a bit during the day. A whole bunch of them. Angela Regas was hanging out with her. Oh, I shouldn't mention names because one of the reps is going to be like, dude, we hung out and talked. But look, so many of them. If you guys have a Michigan rep and want to know about them, by the way, I'll tell you whether I talked to them. Okay. Yeah, Robert Chase knows Jay DeBoyer. No, he's a good one, man. I like him a lot, actually. I should probably ask him if he wants to do a video with me one of these days because he's kind of like right to the point, and he's a go-getter. He's like, let's go get him. I like that about him. There's some really good ones. Greg Alexander. Does anyone have him? He's like way up in the thumb area, like up north of that even, actually. Maybe it's not the thumb itself, but up above. It's hard to keep track of. There's 110 Michigan House districts, but I like that guy too. But anyways, Greg Markinen, I was talking to their staff. And then, look, so there's, and you guys can keep asking me different ones. Riley Linting, she beat Jamie Churches. The one that was probably, many people said, like the biggest psycho in the Michigan House of Representatives. That's what a lot of people told me, and I don't disagree with that. Look, I tell them, don't call her a psycho. Like, well, you disagree? I'm like, no, just we don't say that. We don't. I said, don't call her a psycho. And then they said, all right, well, do you disagree? And I'm like, no, I don't disagree. So anyways, Riley Linting, she's like 22 years old. I think she's the youngest rep. She just took over for Jamie Churches. I saw her and said hi to her. Jason Wolford, who beat Representative Bob Bazat in the primary, said hi to him right up there. This is all in the gallery, okay? And then there's a bunch of good ones that I'm talking to. And they know why I'm there. And I saw a lot of them later at the luncheon and in the hall. And we Matt Maddock. Anyone heard of Matt Maddock? Jim DeSena. All right. I'm trying to give some name recognition because I want you guys to know who these people are. Now, Angela Regas, Jane says, yeah, huge 2A advocate. Was hanging out with her. And then out of the blue, okay? Now, these people I've talked to, these are good-looking gals, handsome guys. And then out of the blue, I'm like, oh, wow. Ooh, I kind of had to, like this, just kind of real quick look the other way. I'm like, ugh. I'll tell you a story why. I almost lost it. Let me digress for 2 minutes. I'll finish the story, then we're going to jump off here. So I'm going back and forth from the House to the Senate. Well, I ended up hanging out with my Senator Joe Bellino, who is an excellent defender and fighter of the Second Amendment too, by the way. You guys can go back and look at the video archives. He sat down, me, Joe, and Jamie talked about immediate effect and how all that works. So he's been on my channel before. So I'm over to the Senate talking to him. And I'm literally texting him. I'm like, hey, man, I want to talk. And he's like, hold on, let me take this vote. And then he actually walks out and talks to me. That's what I mean by like getting involved. Well, it was one of the senators' birthdays. I think it was Ruth Johnson's birthday. And they had all these fancy cupcakes. So he walks by and he grabs a cupcake. He's like, I'm not going to eat one of these. Here you go. And he gives me a cupcake. Well, I hadn't really eaten it at that point. Later on, we had food at the luncheon. And like I said, a lot better menu than it was on the when Speaker Taint. Don't eat food that anyone named Taint provides for you as much. You know, I will say this. Matt Hall voted for gun control. We're hoping he's corrected his ways on that. And I'm attempting, I've not been successful yet, but I'm attempting to get a meeting with the speaker. Just so you guys know, I might need your encouragement on that. We'll see how it goes. I hope it goes good. I really do. But I want to have a face-to-face, like across his desk from him, meeting with the Speaker of the House talking about the Second Amendment. Oh, yeah. Trust me. He's one of the main people I want to talk to. So this was before I had the luncheon. And I really hadn't had any food in me. So my senator gives me this cupcake. I eat it. Then I go back over to the house. Okay, fast forward. And I look. And like I said, nice looking people. Everybody's cool, you know what I'm saying. Just normal, regular people. And then all of a sudden, Timmy Beeson. Yes, I also talked to Timmy Beeson, Alicia St. Germain, Senator Lindsay, Senator Jim Runstead. We can keep going, and I am listing names because I want to connect with some of you guys. We're like, dude, that's my rep. I'm like, yeah, you can go talk to these people, okay? So yeah, if I can talk to these people, you can talk to these people, right? So, anyways, so I just eaten this cupcake. I'm not really into sweets that much. You'd think by looking at me that I'm into sweets. I'm actually really not into sweets that much. I don't have a sweet tooth. But my senator gave me a cupcake, and it kind of hit the spot. So I had a little something in my stomach, but it was a little too rich. And all of a sudden, I'm like, ooh. And I'm like, ooh. I almost lost it right there in the gallery. Guess who's standing this close to me? Because there's they come out like a mob. It's like a whole group, like hundreds of people are coming off the House floor because it's the 110 representatives, and they each have 2 guests. I look up and you guys wouldn't even believe me, but it's true. I promise it is. I didn't even have time to get my camera out. Lori Pohutsky standing right there. And I'm like, oh, almost lost that cupcake that Senator Bellino gave me. It was that close. Whew. All the times we watched her on TV here, on the House TV, on this channel, and she's standing like this close to me. I ate the frosting for the most part too. Fun to learn. And the frosting, yeah, but can you imagine that? It's kind of like if you just ate like one of these super, like this was like high-end cake we're talking here. Like it tastes really good, but you don't want to eat the whole thing because it's so rich. You know what I mean? I mean, this was a senator's birthday, so we're talking like highfalutin cupcakes here, right? See, that's why you want to brush elbows with your senator, because sometimes they'll even give you a snack. Now, I mean, this thing, it's like if you just ate something like that and you came across a piece of roadkill in the middle of August that had been on the side of the road for about a week, you might lose it. Now, I'm not saying Pohutsky looks as bad as roadkill that's been there for the last week. I wouldn't say that about her. I would never say anything about her like that at all. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, and then I see her for a minute. I'm like, Lori Pohutsky, hello. And she turns her head and she looks down and then she does this penguin waddle. Has anyone seen how she walks? And she goes, tuk, 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 like, wow. I'm serious. She like takes her feet. How do we do this? I can't show you guys because I'm sitting down. But she her feet, right? And she kind of goes like this. And then she kind of just like, instead of just like walking forward, you know what I'm saying? instead of just if you guys have seen it, you've seen it. See, come up to the Capitol building with me one day, all right? We'll go over to the Senate side. I'll introduce you guys to some of them. No, there's some good pro Second Amendment senators too. And then I'll take you guys over to the House side. And when she walks out, you'll know what I mean. It's quite the treat to watch. I'm being very polite right now. But she comes out and her feet, they go something like this. You guys know what I'm talking about? And she goes like, she kind of like moves side to side, but like a little bit forward, but mainly side to side. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm not really sure what to make of her. Wow. Please tell me someone knows what I'm talking about so I can stop describing this. But first, the cupcake, I'm just like, ooh. Ugh. I looked and I'm like, ooh, don't look. But I couldn't help myself. So I attempted to say hi. If you asked her, she'd probably say, I didn't hear him. I didn't see him. I don't know. Maybe she didn't hear. Maybe she didn't hear. With the way she walks, it's like she probably just has to focus on that so much. She can't hear too much. So I don't know. Okay, David, thank you. Okay, he knows exactly what I'm saying. All right. And I'm trying to be super polite. Trust me. I would not say she looks like a deer roadkill that's been on the side of the road for the week. I'm not saying that. I was just giving you an analogy of something where you don't want to eat like, you don't want to eat something like real rich. And yeah, Harry Grumley, like I said, highfalutin cupcakes. You don't want to eat something that rich. And yeah, with that much shortening and sugar in it before you run into some of these type of people. Yeah, no taint food. Yeah, we did run into Senator Lindsay a few times. Dude, I ran into Senator Bellino, my senator, like 15 times. Like, I'm not even joking. So the way my senator is, he likes to talk to everybody. So I was out there talking to one of the Senate police who guard the chambers, meaning you can't go past, right? Now, there's very rare exceptions. If you're a House floor guest on opening day with your ticket, you do, okay? That was Jackson and Jay that were with Representative Thompson this time, right? With Jamie. But other than that, you stand outside. But if you stand there, you can write notes to your senator if you're on the Senate side. I say side because it's a rotunda. It's round. It's a big round dome, you know. You're up there. Anyways, so you can write a note and they will pass it to your senator. Well, I was texting him and I was standing there talking to this Senate police woman or whatever she was. And she's like, you have to say whatever they are now because like the Supreme Court justice doesn't even know the difference between a man and a woman. But I'm talking to her and I'm like, you're allowed to stand there. It's totally fine. And we were just kind of small talking and chit chatting. I'm like, I'm waiting for my senator to come out. She's like, who's your senator? I'm like, Joe Bellino. She goes, oh, good luck with that. But yeah, he'll talk to like 15 people on his way out. So I'm like, she's like, you can write him a note if you want, and I'll go deliver it to him. And I'm like, can I write get your ASS out here? She goes, yeah, actually, you can write whatever you want. So I'm like, I won't do that. So I just said, hey, and she gave it to him, and then he came out. But yeah, it was funny. All right, I'm going to take one last look at the chat here. I saw somebody talking about Jack Bergman, which I'm glad you have rapport with him. He is not a Michigan representative, though. He is not a Michigan state representative. He's a United States congressman, which is good that you have rapport with him. And if you're talking to him, because there's certainly many, many issues going on at the federal level. Now, okay, and you do know that because you just said Roth. Okay, John Roth, that's your state representative. Okay, you know the difference. I just want to throw it out there because some people get confused by that when we start mixing, you know what I mean, state and federal together. People aren't exactly sure who they are. Or a Rescue Nut says the duck walk. Yeah, it's like a duck walk, kind of. It's a little more like it's more like a penguin, and it's all right, though. See, Mr. C, and don't think I was making fun of you, man. Because I walk like that, too. When I was a kid, my nickname was Penguin. It's all good, dude. Look, if you're a good dude otherwise, which I'm sure you are, Mr. C, I know you are, but then I could care less. I couldn't care less. But it's just like with her, just the way she kind of, you know what I mean? So if anyone else walks like that, I'm not making fun of you. I'm actually not even making fun of her at all. I'm being very polite. Wouldn't you say so, Jane Locke? I'm being very polite about these people. So yeah, there's some strategy. There's a little recap of my my day in Lansing. Gave you guys the inside scoop on that. Talked a little bit about the ATF, whatever they're doing with pistol braces again, which is completely insane. If you want more information on that, go back and watch my previous video. And like I said, I'm working on gathering information for something the channel is working on right now. So I appreciate you guys from the western side of the state chiming in. I did get a few of your emails. I was hoping to get a few more. You know what I mean? Out of the 5,000 people that watched that video, which I know everyone does not live in Michigan. And if they do, everyone does not live on the western half. I totally get it. But I did get about 5 or 6 emails. Wouldn't mind maybe tomorrow at the latest getting a couple more. One person sent me an email with some information I was really interested in. If you're watching, and I was like, hey, can we talk on the phone just for a few minutes? And we'll see. I'll check my email again. They kind of, I don't think, wanted to give me their phone number. So it was kind of one of those things where, but we'll see. Maybe they just didn't get a chance to check their email yet. But it's like, guys, I'm kind of trying to work on something right now. The channel's interested in hearing about some of these things. And this is pertaining to my video I did yesterday that's talking about the bills that were presented to the governor. The last half of the video, I was kind of requesting some people from the western side of the state help the channel out with a little info because I'm working on something right now. And yeah, we'll see. It's tough, guys. It's tough, man. You get thousands of views, tens of thousands of views, hundreds of thousands of views, turns into millions of views, and you're like, I'm working on a little something here that you guys will really like when I get it all put together for the channel. And like, I get like 5 people that respond that are kind of willing to help out. And the one guy that part of his story he shared was like very, very germane to exactly what I'm looking to research into. Probably doesn't actually want to like get on the phone with me for 5 minutes so we can talk more. You guys know what I'm saying, right? So if there's anybody out there, let me know, because I'll probably get like, I know how this works. Next week when it's like too late for the particulars that I'm working on for the channel behind the scenes right now, we'll just leave it like that for brevity's sake. I'll probably get like 50 emails next week, and I'm like, it's too late. What I'm working on, I needed to gather that information, because I've heard like thousands of comments of people literally that are like, this happened to me, this horror story happened to me, this happened to me, blah blah blah, pertaining to these registrations and pistol purchase permits and long gun purchase permits. I could write a novel with the YouTube comments. And I'm like, guys, I'm working on a project behind the scenes for the channel right now. And the channel would like if a couple guys could just share their story with me. And a few people did. So thank you if you emailed me. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, watch my video I put out yesterday. I explained it in great detail. And everybody's stories are interesting. Some are a little more germane to what I'm working on than others. So we'll see. Do you guys think it's possible in this whole state that I will? Do you guys think it's possible in this whole state that I will get like even one person that can like help me, help everybody with what I'm working on here for the channel? And we'll see if it happens or not. I don't know. All right, guys, I have to get out here and look at this snow. And I will see all of you again soon. I'm going to put out another video tomorrow, I believe, about something else that happened in Lansing pertaining to me that some of you may be happy about, but some of you may actually be kind of disappointed in. I'll leave you with that little bit of a cliffhanger, but I have one more little story to tell you that I was kind of holding back on because I do want to do a standalone video for that. And assuming I can get all my snow plowed in time, which is my hope, I plan on seeing you guys over on Locals tomorrow night. All right. Thanks for watching and have a good one.